Good evening. I'm calling to order this regular business meeting of the Redmond City Council held on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, commencing at 7:07 p.m. I'll be chairing this meeting as Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Burney is online with us tonight, and I will start by calling roll call. Council Vice President Nueva Camina.
Here.
Councilmember Forsyth.
Here.
Councilmember Procria.
Here.
Councilmember Soni.
Here.
Councilmember Kritzer.
Here.
Thank you. All council members are in attendance tonight. I do see that we have quite the crowd, and I imagine some of you are here to speak with us during items from the audience. Tonight is a bit of a special night, so items from the audience will be a bit delayed tonight. The first item on the agenda is an executive session to evaluate the qualifications of applicants for public employment per RCW 42.30.110 for 30 minutes. The executive session will start at 7:09 p.m. and adjourn at 7:39 p.m. At that time, council will return to open session for nominations and appointment of the candidate who will fill our council vacancy. Per state law, executive session is closed to the public. Executive session participants attending remotely, please leave this meeting and join the executive sessions on Teams. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I'm here to announce that the executive session will extend until 8 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your patience. The executive session will be extended to 8:15. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, everyone. The next item on the agenda is special orders of the day to conclude our council vacancy process. We will have the nominations, appointment, swearing in, and seating of a new council member. Once again, on behalf of the council, we'd like to thank all of the applicants who participated in this process. It was an outstanding turnout from our community, and I know that we are deeply humbled by everyone who participated. So, to the council, this is our familiar nomination process. All nominations will be accepted prior to voting. No second is needed. I will announce each name that is nominated, and then debate on the qualifications will take place. When nominations and debate are done, I will close our nominations. Immediately following the close of nominations, voting will commence in the order the candidates were nominated. The first candidate to receive a majority vote will be appointed to the vacant council position. Are there any questions on this process? Okay, nominations are now open. Are there nominations? Councilmember Kritzer.
I nominate Sina Parsi.
Sina Parsi has been nominated. Are there other nominations? Okay. Is there any debate on the nomination of Sina Parsi? Councilmember Kritzer?
I'd like to speak to the nomination. We had 3 incredible finalists for this position that each brought such passion for community, such great knowledge, background, and skills. And I want to thank each and every one of you for putting yourself out there. And I hope that everyone who has applied for this will find a way to be involved in our city, because we're so lucky to have so many smart, engaged, and caring residents. I nominated Sina because I think Sina really showed us, as part of this application process and the work in the community, a breadth of interest on a lot of the different areas that we work on council, from technology and data privacy policy to a passion for our natural environment, to working on issues around housing and equity, and working with our immigrant community. And I think would bring a really unique perspective to our council from the work that she's done in our community, and on our Parks Commission as well. So that's why I've put Sina Parsi's name out there for us to approve for this position. And again, want to thank all 3 of our incredible candidates who we interviewed tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. This was not an easy decision. We have had amazing candidates come forward and apply for this position to the tune of 35 that initially applied, us narrowing it down to 11 with great conversations, and then these final 3 tonight who, wow, just what a good problem we had tonight, as you saw by the fact that we had to extend our session to talk about who to have join us on the dais up here. I'm confident in this nomination for Sina Parsi, as I feel that her well-roundedness, her excitedness and curiosity to learn, and the effort to reach out to the city at times when she maybe wasn't involved with things, but to learn more about our processes, and just that curiosity to learn and grow, as well as bringing in a lot of community voices, and even the outreach that we as council members received in advance in support of her nomination. It just speaks a lot to what we will be gaining as council members. And it's also been a challenge because we know what we will also be losing by the other candidates. So I just really want to say a heartfelt gratitude for everyone who applied, those of you that made it through the process and the interviews, and those of you that made it here tonight. Very, very grateful for your energy, your passion, your curiosity, and your willingness to serve.
Councilmember Prakriya.
I want to take the time to reiterate what my colleague said in first thanking all 35 applicants we had for this vacancy, thanking all 11 candidates who we had interview last week for this vacancy, and the 3 who came back tonight to interview again. This was not an easy decision, but I'm incredibly happy that it wasn't an easy decision because that makes me passionate, excited, and optimistic for the future of Redmond. I am supportive of the nomination of Saina Parsi because of the willingness she has shown to take action when she sees a problem or when she wants to learn more about a situation, as evidenced in many aspects in her interview tonight. I am honored that this is the task ahead of me in one of my first council meetings, but I would also be honored to have Saina as a new colleague with just a couple weeks behind me and coming up to speed, so we're going to be coming up very soon together because I'm not 100% familiar with the workings of the job myself too. So once again, thank you to everybody who applied and who engaged in this process. It was not an easy decision. Thank you.
Council Vice President?
Thank you. Not to repeat anything that's already been said, as I'm listening to my colleagues, I'm looking for something to add because I agree with the things that have been said by my colleagues. But I will add that coming into this position midterm, I feel confident that she is going to be up to speed in no time. And being able to be a significant value add from the beginning. So supporting this.
Thank you. Councilmember Soni.
As my colleagues indicated, this was definitely not an easy decision to take. And in this entire process, I think these opportunities, they do not come very often. To appoint someone, we always have an elections, and that's a process that's followed. To have an appointment is a process that we don't get to see. So not only it has helped us to identify the candidate, but it's also helped us to learn and to grow our processes. And definitely each and every candidate brought a very, very unique experience and the value to the table. But somewhere when basically for us to see is like definitely, what is the willingness and, how that's happened. And I'm really excited for Saina to be, part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further debate on the nominations? Okay, nominations are now closed. A roll call vote will be taken. This is a roll call vote starting with Council Vice President Nueva Camina.
Aye.
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 Aye. Congratulations, Ms. Parsi. Would you like to join us? Yes. The next step is that we are honored here tonight to have the Honorable Judge Finkel to perform a swearing in. Thank you for joining us, Saina.
It's always my pleasure. I love doing this. It's one of the better parts of my job. So you want to come over here? Okay, so you could raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Saina Parsi.
I, Saina Parsi.
Sorry. I'll start over. I always want to pronounce people's names correctly, so I'm going to do this right. I, Saina Parsi.
I, Saina Parsi.
Having been duly appointed.
Having been duly appointed.
To the office of City of Redmond Council Position Number 1.
To the office of City Council Position Number 1.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
Discharge the duties of this office.
Discharge the duties of this office.
As prescribed by law.
As prescribed by law.
And to the best of my ability.
And to the best of my ability.
And that I will support and maintain.
And that I will support and maintain.
The Constitution of the State of Washington.
The Constitution Constitution of the State of Washington
and of the United States of America.
and of the United States of America.
Congratulations, and you're almost there. We still have to sign. So, if you sign there. I don't even charge an officiant's fee. See, isn't that great?
Thank you.
Council, I will ask you to stay at the end of the meeting for all of the group photos. We have a lot of people waiting. So we'll take group photos at the end, and we're going to welcome Sina to sit with us. Excuse me,
Congrats.
Councilmember Parsi.
Public service is a great way to go. So there's that. There's your pen.
Welcome, Councilmember Parsi. We are so excited to have you. As you settle in a moment, I'll give you a chance to say hello if you would like. With this swearing in tonight, Team Redmond is complete, and we are looking forward to an exciting year. Together, we will work to deliver on our community's priorities, work in partnership with city staff and the mayor to build our next biennial budget, and celebrate major milestones with community, such as the trains from the other side of the lake and welcoming the World Cup. It's going to be a great year. Councilmember Parsi, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so much to everyone on the council and the wonderful questions that you asked and the deliberations that you did. I really appreciate the thoughtful process that you followed. I'm grateful for everyone's support who helped me along the way. And I also want to acknowledge that I am stepping into an elected position appointed, and I wanted to make sure that I still represent the voice of everyone in the community. So feel free to reach out to me an email. I will represent each and every one of you regardless of not being elected and being stepping into this position appointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, we're really excited that you're here. And to all of our candidates, CK and Annie, thank you so, so much for your perseverance with this process. We are going to get on with the rest of our meeting now, and it looks like we have a few folks. I'm sorry, Mayor Bernie. Mayor Bernie, you are recognized.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Council President Stewart, for running the meeting tonight. I happen to be in Olympia for Association of Washington Cities, and I cannot be there tonight. I'm very sad about that. I want to welcome our newest council member, Parsi, to the dais. Thank you so much for applying. Thank you for being willing to be part of our team, as Council President Stewart has said. Looking forward to working with you. Thank you to all the other candidates as well. I appreciate that this was not an easy decision. We have wonderful community members who are willing to put themselves out there to be part of this council. But once again, welcome, Councilmember Parsi. Look forward to onboarding you and working with you, and look forward to the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we are going to move on to the next part of our agenda, which is items from the audience. We do have 20 people who've signed up to testify in person and 3 people who've signed up to testify remotely. I do realize that this is a little later than some of you may have intended to be speaking with us tonight. I just want to be sure that everyone knows if you do have to leave before we get to you tonight, please do feel free to email us at mayorcouncil@redmond.gov. You can also reach the council members individually through their emails and phone numbers. I have the sign-in sheet for members of the public. When I read your name, you'll come up to the podium and have 3 minutes to address the council. Council members will generally not respond to comments or questions directly at the meeting. And again, members of the public are welcome to email us anytime at mayorcouncil@redmond.gov. The views stated by members of the public do not represent the opinions of the City of Redmond. As a reminder, RCW 29B.45.010 prohibits any public comment during the council meeting in support or opposition of ballot measures, proposals, or candidates. All comments must pertain to the City of Redmond business as indicated on the sign-in sheet. The first three speakers tonight are Alex Zimmerman, Todd Cage, and Manny Perez.
Yeah, my name Alex Zimmerman, and thank you very much. Yeah, I look you very happy clown. It's make me happy too. You don't understand why men doing here. It's all woman. What are you doing here? Fire him. He's not supposed to be here. Yeah, you hear me? This woman supposed to be fire you. What are you doing here? All woman, mere woman too. What is this, guys? Are you a real clown? Or are you mentally sick? My president talking about people like you are human garbage. It's exactly who you are. All women, one man. Are you a man?
Point of order.
Councilmember Forsyth.
The commenter is not speaking to an item of city business.
Mr. Zimmerman, this is your one warning. Please speak to an item of city business.
No, I talking about something. What is you talking? And you for 2 hours people wait for you. You think this normal? Guys, you understand who are you? I not only quote my President Trump. You are a human garbage. Who doing this? Only one woman? One man? A all woman? How is this possible? I never seen like this before in my life. What is you thinking? Huh? Who you doing? What is you doing? It's a nightmare. No, how government with have only women can something doing for men? Guys, they not will doing for men nothing.
Mr. Zimmerman, your comments need to be directed at the council. You're aware of the rules. At this time, I'm terminating the rest of your comment time. The next speaker is Todd Cage. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. My name's Todd, and I'm here to speak about Interlake. Real quickly, could all the members of Interlake that are here tonight raise your hands? Thank you. I'm a lifelong liberal Democrat, and I have been since I didn't understand what those terms really meant. And it was a surprise to me when I found myself buying my first firearm in January of last year. I bought my first firearm, a shotgun, because I was afraid. I was afraid following the November 2024 elections. And even though I couldn't have predicted the militarization of US cities on our soil, I feared something was going to happen. And I wanted to defend myself and my family. And after a lot of research, I found that a 12-gauge shotgun was the most recommended, and so I purchased it. And wanting to be a responsible gun owner, I started training. To my absolute surprise, I love shooting. I hadn't shot since Boy Scouts, shooting 22s at little targets, and it was not something I had ever imagined pursuing. Since then, I've purchased 2 pistols, competed in 42 competitive matches, and as of this weekend, are in the top third of the shooters that I compete with. It has been an incredible journey that I never anticipated and wouldn't have been possible without resources and facilities like Interlake. But actually, that's not the important thing here I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about community and the importance of community and the fact that we have a crisis of a lack of community spaces in this country. And I think that lack of community spaces leads to all of the othering, the dehumanization, and the lack of true, nuanced political discourse in this country. I have had more nuanced conversations with shooters from all political spectrums that I have in almost my entire life. This is the most welcoming community I've encountered since college. I have seen people from all walks of life come to a match, be welcomed regardless of their level of experience, coached on being safe, and taught the interesting sport of recreational shooting. So I just want to encourage all of you to consider that with these lack of community spaces in our country, and with the dehumanization that it leads to when we shout at each other across the aisle, that it's really important that we preserve these spaces where we can rehumanize each other. Thank you.
Thank you for the enthusiasm. In order to preserve the opportunity for all speakers, we will ask for the audience to remain quiet for the proceedings tonight. Thank you so much for respecting one another. The next speaker is Manny, followed by last name Marchevsky and Klimoth. Go ahead, Manny.
Good evening, and thank you, council members, for allowing us to come forth and give testimony. My name is Manny Perez. A little background, I'm a retired Coast Guard officer, and I'm also retired from the state of Washington. My focus in both of those endeavors was safety. I'm also an NRA certified instructor in several shooting disciplines, and I'm also an NRA appointed training counselor, which means I train the trainers. I can certify people. In fact, Todd is going to be taking two instructor classes from me at the end of this month. I've been a member at ISA since 2020, 2021. And I actually joined there so that I could teach, because one of the classes that I'm certified in is the concealed carry class. And this is a very important class for those who are beginning shooters, who just get their concealed carry permit or are about to get it. ISA has a great facility. They have some wonderful ranges, and they have a great classroom. It's big enough for 10 to 12 people that we could train, and it's actually an ideal class size. The importance of training cannot be overestimated. It's an opportunity, and this is what we provide for law-abiding citizens to come and be able to shoot in a welcoming atmosphere and a safe atmosphere. If there are any limits on the hours, because one of the things that would happen is we don't have the opportunity to teach on Sunday. The class that I teach is usually a 2-day class. And so we teach Saturday, and if I can't teach Sunday, I have to wait a whole week to come back and teach again. And there's going to be a great deal of loss of continuity, because a lot of things we build on Saturday, you're going to be using on Sunday. And that could really create problems for me as an instructor and create problems for the students as well. One of the other things I do is I'm one of the safe handling exam instructors and examiners. This is part of our intake process for new members. And it's how to manage a range safely. And there are times when we have had individuals who've come through who do not meet the standards. And we have rejected them. We will tell them, no, go get some additional training and then come back to us, and we'll let them become members. And it's really important because safety is our main focus. We want to make sure that if someone owns a firearm, if someone wants to use a firearm, they possess the skills that are needed. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. The next speaker is last name Marchevsky.
Okay. Good evening, council members. Thank you for taking the time to listen tonight. My name is Kira, and I'm a student, a competitive shooter, and a member of the Interlake Sporting Association. I would like to speak here not as an expert or a lawyer, but as a young person whose daily life would be directly affected by the proposed reductions in operating hours for the range that I'm part of. Like many students, my weekdays are already full. I'm in school all day, and by the time I'm free, most weekday hours at the range are already limited. If hours are reduced further, or Sundays are taken away entirely, it becomes nearly impossible for me to practice at all. And I shoot competitively, which means practice isn't always optional. Progress in any sport comes from repetition, discipline, and consistent training. Limiting access limits growth and development in the sport. It makes it harder to compete, harder to improve, and harder for me to stay engaged in something I genuinely enjoy. Interlake isn't just a place to shoot. It's where I've learned safety, structure, and accountability. The range already operates with strict rules and emphasizes responsibility and respect above all else. It has been operating safely for way longer than I've been alive, and it keeps improving every single week. Over the past few years, the range has already reduced its hours and suspended louder programs by limiting rate of fire and requiring quieter equipment. We invested in safety and monitoring, all of this in response to community concerns. What I'm asking you to consider is that policies don't affect everyone the same way. I've shared how these changes would affect me as a student, but I'm not the only one. Reducing hours may be manageable for some adults with flexible schedules, but for students, working families, and others with limited availability, they become a real barrier. I want to continue growing in my sport. I want to continue training in a controlled, safe, and well-regulated environment, which is what I found at Interlake. And I want to do that while balancing school responsibility and being a respectful member of this community. Thank you for listening and for considering how these decisions affect not just the facility, but people who depend on it.
Thank you. The next three speakers, last name Klimpf, starts with a B, first name, Cage, and then Peter. And if you could go ahead and state your name for the record, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm Bradley Clymer. I'm an AI scientist and electrical engineer for the Department of Energy, though I have to caveat that I speak only for myself, not for the Department of Energy. I'm here on behalf of Interlake with proposed changes in hours. The main concern that I have as an AI scientist, I'm always doing optimization on things, and I want to know what's going to be the most effective, and both for the stated effective being a good member of our community, and then also mitigating the noise and any public health hazards people might think are there. I think that reducing the available hours is going to be less effective for a couple of reasons, mainly because you'd be cramming most people in on Saturdays, and also because there's a real limitation to the ability of folks who are 9-to-5ers like me. I work in national security. I spend a lot of my days in a skiff where I can't get out. I'm locked in there doing the things I need to do. And on Saturdays, we have a limited number of opportunities to get in there, and especially if it's a limited capacity place like Interlake, that makes it harder for me to be a lawful, responsible, safe gun owner. And so that's the personal way that it affects me, and I think that's probably true for a lot of other people. So I'm asking that we don't remove the exemption as it currently exists for Interlake. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, last name Cage, followed by Peter, and then Juliet. Sure, if you come up to the microphone and say the name that we should have on the record here.
So my last name is formally Cage. It is now Noland, Noland.
Perfect, and your first name?
Jody with an I.
Jody, perfect.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Public speaking isn't comfortable for me, but I felt it was important to be here tonight to speak about something I care deeply about. My name is Jody Noland, and I am here as a resident of this community and as a member of Interlake. I've been a member for about 3 years, and I wanted to share my personal experience as you consider the draft ordinances. For me, the club has been a place where safety is emphasized above everything else. From the very beginning, the focus has been on responsibility, training, and clear rules. There is structure, supervision, and strong culture of accountability. For me, the club has been a place where safety, responsibility, and respect for others are consistently practiced, not just talked about. That matters to me, and I know it matters to many others who choose to be a part of the club like this. I understand the city's desire to address community concerns. I also recognize that this ordinance is still in draft form, which is why I felt it was important to speak now. Before it becomes before council in a final way, my concern is that the current draft may have unintended consequences for organizations that are already operating responsibly. Broad or inflexible regulations, especially around noise, could end up impacting places that prioritize safety and good neighbor practices, without necessarily addressing the underlying concerns the city is trying to resolve. I also want to emphasize that this issue involves a thoughtful, engaged group of residents who care deeply about this community and want to be a part of a constructive solution. We believe there are better, more balanced approaches available, but they require listening to all stakeholders and taking the time to collaborate. So my request tonight is not to stop the city from acting, but to pause, engage more broadly, and work with those who are directly affected before moving forward. I truly believe that doing so will lead to a stronger, more informed outcome for everyone. Thank you for your time and your service to our community.
Thank you. We have Peter, Juliet, and Adam.
Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening. You've heard from the previous presenters that Interlake Sporting Association provides a safe, respectful place that a diverse group of people rely on, not only for community, but for essential firearms safety and skills training. You've also heard about the many steps the club has taken over the years to operate responsibly and be a good neighbor. We recognize that our operations can have impacts, and we take that responsibility seriously. Our goal has always been to reduce those impacts in a way that generally supported neighborhood livability and public health. We have compromised in the past, and we are prepared to do so again, but in ways that are effective, durable, and grounded in sound planning. It is important to understand that this issue did not arise suddenly. ISA participated in the city planning process in the late 1980s during the approval of the Willows Crest community to our south, and again in the mid-2010s during the planning for the Rose Hill development to our north. In both cases, the city evaluated our long-established operations. In the case of the community to the south, which goes back to the Marcioni administration, the developer wasn't held to the promise of a sound mitigation wall. To the community to the north of us, one, the city rejected our suggestion that the trees not be cleared to provide to keep the sound mitigation barrier. Two, that there'd be a requirement that new residents be informed that we exist. The city rejected that. And third, when the developer did build a high wall, the city had that reduced to 6 feet. Right? So this history is why development agreements matter. When long-term investments are required, like we are proposing, and to fund, we need clearly defined and locked-in agreements on both sides before those investments are made. To that end, we've commissioned a professional sound study to establish the objective scientific understanding of our noise profile. We're also actively working with sound engineers on physical infrastructure improvements that will permanently reduce noise impacts across all operating hours, not simply shift them to narrower time windows. We appreciate the opportunity to discuss the work in more detail with city staff in an upcoming meeting. And we wanted council to be aware that those efforts are already underway as part of a constructive, solution-oriented path forwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. The next speaker is Juliet, followed by Adam and Johanna.
Evening, ladies and gents. I was here, this past summer and fall. I spoke to a few.
Juliet, could you speak into the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, you can move it.
I was here this past summer and fall, spoke to a couple of you guys, and I just wanted to be able to work. I work at Meta. I feed them. I've been there on the 22nd, 7 years, and I have been working in pain for the 7 years. And I am at a point in my life right now where I want to work pain-free. What I mean by that, I have carpal tunnel in both hands. My right hand's dominant. And I will have problems holding my knife because my fingers go numb, I go tingling. I have bad knees. And it's just hard to get through the day. There will be days where I'm putting stuff on my knees daily and my hands daily. It's hard because I'm not trying to go down the road of drugs because I don't want that type of fix. I need fix to surgery that I can't afford. And there are many of us that are working for Meta, that have fought and won the union. We are asking you guys to help us, and you have in the past, and we're still on this road of fighting for the union, and we would, knowing that the flagship that works for Meta down the road in Seattle all have it. California has it, Texas just won it, and we want the opportunity to also have what they have, and we deserve what they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, Johanna, and Gio.
Hi, my name is Adam Cook. I work as a line cook for Lavish Roots in the Meta Kitchens in Bellevue and Redmond. And since we last spoke to you guys in the fall, we've continued our organizing efforts to win union recognition. But we've been constantly facing pushback from both Meta and Lavish. In Redmond, we've had people get kicked out of the parking garage by Meta security guards, stating that union activity cannot happen on Meta property, which is clearly violating our rights to organize. And in the shop, we've had upper management kicking us out of other kitchens, attempting to stop us from organizing, and mainly targeting the ones like myself and my friends and coworkers who are openly pro-union and organizing. But because Meta and Lavish have refused to remain neutral and to respond to any of our asks of them, we started picket actions outside of the Meta buildings. And to our knowledge, that these were the first picket actions against a tech company in Washington State. And each picket that we held was getting bigger and louder than the last, up to a noise complaint. We also held a public forum with one of your former colleagues, Osman Salahuddin, as well as other elected officials. And we talked about what we face in the shop every day, the hardships that we all have. And we talked about why we're still fighting to win this union. And we set a deadline for Meta and for Lavish to respond to our simple ask of remaining neutral and respecting a majority card count, something that Meta has already done across the country for other dining workers. To this day, both Meta and Lavish have refused to contact us or change the way that we're treated in the shop every day. And we are just asking to have what other dining workers across Meta and Google and Microsoft already have with their unions, and we just want the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Johanna, Gio, and then Elizabeth.
Good evening. My name is Johanna Bandler, and I am a cook for the contractor that runs Meta's cafeterias in Bellevue and Redmond. As my coworkers shared, we've been fighting publicly since July for union recognition in Meta's cafeterias. We signed a majority of our coworkers on union cards, but the company still refuses to remain neutral, and they continue to stoke fear among our coworkers, leaving many people worried that union participation will result in discipline. More worryingly, when our coworkers turn on the news or read accounts of ICE's presence in the area, they worry that anything they do to raise their profile could lead to their immigration statuses being jeopardized. They have reason to be scared because they are watching members of their families and communities being detained without any clear reason. In this moment of fear, we are working hard to create the most safety we can for our coworkers. And we've been encouraged to see Washington elected leaders begin to build up protections against ICE. But we also believe that it's even more important than ever to win a fair contract, so we can win the same workplace immigration protections that workers in the Microsoft cafeterias won through their union contract just a short time ago. My coworkers have the right to work in this country. They followed all of the rules, and they tell me that they are still scared to get in their cars and drive to work because ICE doesn't care that they followed the rules. And they deserve to be less scared when they walk through the doors in Meta's cafeterias. When Microsoft cafeteria workers organized, Microsoft instructed its contractor Compass to respect the majority decision of the dining workers to form a union without having to go through the federal election process. We are asking Meta to do the same, and we urgently need your support so that we have the power to create safety in our workplace. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gio. I used to be a cook in Microsoft campus. During that time, my coworkers and I organized Microsoft 2023. Microsoft respected the workers' majority decision to organize. That's why we feel Meta dining workers deserve the same. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Elizabeth, then Aaron and Wolf.
Hi, my name is Liz. I'm a pastry cook at Meta Dining Workers. I've been working there for 2 years. I started work at 5:30 this morning to make breakfast for over 1,000 Meta employees. The work at Meta is very hard, and the demands are increasing every single day. But despite all of the work that we do, Meta has no respect for their contracted workers. We've gone to the company with the majority decision, and we have had weeks of picketing outside of the buildings in Bellevue, but Meta still refuses to even communicate with us. They believe that they can ignore the democratic process, but I am here with my coworkers today to demand that they respect their employees and engage in a fair process. Just as we spoke to you in August and September and asked you to sign a letter of neutrality supporting the workers of Redmond and Bellevue, we continue to need your support in the face of a company that makes my coworkers afraid to demand the changes that they deserve. We will not be staying for the full meeting tonight because our schedules demand us to wake up early, but I want to encourage you and remind you of your duty to speak up for the workers of Redmond in the face of Meta, who believes that they are above the law. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Aaron Hamilton, Wolf Adriatico, and Nadita Gilray.
A city council seat should never be appointed. It exists to serve the public and should always be decided by voters. I don't fault the people for taking the opportunity. However, I hope they can recognize that you were not elected and therefore have the responsibility to earn the public trust, as we did not have a say in who sits in that chair. When the city council controls appointments, true democratic accountability is lost. Even if the process is assumed unbiased, the public will question whether the choice reflects the council's priorities or the public's. Knowing this council, we know no conservative is ever going to have a shot. And even if you guys don't like me, I still will stand up for you. No one on the LGBTQ plus community would have a chance. The city's own job applications, yes, that's plural, made it very clear anyone who doesn't identify as male or female is excluded and not welcome. And you couldn't even apologize for that mistake. People who the council knows that will disagree or cause friction with their stance on issues, decisions, or directions, regardless of qualifications, aren't going to have a chance. In those interviews, you ask candidates on the city's importance towards DEI, which is debatable, both the council and candidates seem to limit it to just race and ethnicity, but it encompasses so much more, like gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, age, etc. What worried me was each candidate's response to that question is primarily focused on, we go to where the people are and talk. However, I would answer this and I would look for, in a response is, it's more than just going to where the people are and talking. People are tired of talking. They want to see action and change. It's about visibility and representation. If you see someone like yourself in a position that traditionally would be excluded from, that sends a very powerful message. If they can do it, so can I. And you do that by creating and or changing the environment and culture to eliminate the barriers to ensure fair access and opportunities to these individuals to succeed and strive. You lead by example and show these communities that you aren't making the same mistakes over and over and over again. And then I wouldn't have, oh shit, I got more time. I wouldn't have to keep pointing your mistakes out for you to correct. This is basic stuff where just add more genders. It's not that hard. That should be as basic as adding ethnicities, even though the ethnicity, in conclusion, even under the ethnicities, you didn't even provide an option for other or prefer not to say.
Thank you. The next speaker is Wolf Adriatico.
We did it under time.
Followed by Nandita and Johnson Isaac Joseph.
Redmond Community Center at Merrimore Village's music programs for teens are listed on redmond.gov/OFH as Soundcheck Thursdays, inviting teens to, quote, turn up the volume in a space to connect with fellow music lovers, something that was the norm at OFH and not once a week. Second, open mic nights with a coffee shop vibe, though performers are only permitted voice or acoustic instruments for 5 minutes. I have to ask, by coffee shop vibe, do you mean comments on the teen center or on the teen lounge, such as, quote, this looks like a Starbucks, that's not a good thing, quote, it feels like a restaurant where we'd be trying to loiter and dodge checks, or, quote, too formal, feels like a cafe restaurant? 3, production workshops, those being DIY live show, a class, not to be mistaken as a show, DIY recording, and Foley workshop, $73 minimum and $110 as the current highest. There have been 0 live shows since July 2025. The sadly ironic thing is that with Redmond's elimination of free expression and alternative electric music alongside its alienation of average or disenfranchised teens without hundreds of dollars to gamble, the community is forced to shoulder burdens shrugged off by the city. Since September, Save OFH has hosted monthly live shows. We've hosted bands who once played at OFH, as well as new talent who never had the chance. Soul Food Coffee House has been incredibly welcoming as a venue, which I'd say has an actual cafe vibe. And you may have also seen us play at Downtown Park or outside OFH before it was fenced off as an extra fuck you. Besides donations, multiple members have paid out of pocket for these shows' permits and equipment, not to mention lending our dedication and time to these children, to give these children hope and a place to perform. I beseech thee, O magnificent, all-knowing rulers, please amend your policy and price to facilitate accessibility, which is wholly lacking.
The next speaker is Nandita, then Johnson, and Jason.
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Nandita Gilroy. I am a longtime Redmond resident, and I coach at Redmond High School. And my husband and I currently live on 157th Avenue on Education Hill. So I'm here tonight to bring an issue to your attention regarding our neighborhood. There's a short plat land development proposal in progress right now to subdivide a large lot on our street into 4 lots to allow for multi-unit housing up to 16 units. While there are differing opinions on housing density, the more pressing issue is safety. So in order to subdivide this lot, the city planner has confirmed that the north and south ends of 157th Avenue would need to be connected into a through street, where currently there's only a fire lane with wooden posts to divide it. This street connection is the real issue. It would turn our quiet residential street into a cut-through between 2 major roads, Redmond-Woodinville Road and 109th Street. So Redmond-Woodinville Road backs up during rush hour, and commuters looking to avoid traffic will start flying through our neighborhood as a cut-through. So I personally grew up on this street, actually. I learned to ride my bike there, I played outside, I drew with chalk on the streets, and my husband and I are currently remodeling the house that I grew up in and planning to raise our family there. And the reason is because it's a quiet, safe, family-friendly street. If the street is connected, we would not feel comfortable raising our family here or letting our kids play outside. And that's heartbreaking because the only people who benefit from this street connection are people who don't live on the street. So this is not a new issue. About 20 years ago, when a nearby development was in progress, residents raised the same concern to the city. And the city at the time agreed that the connection would create a safety issue and the street was not connected. Nothing has changed to justify opening it now. And if anything, traffic on Redmond-Woodinville Road is worse, and opening up this connection would make conditions even more dangerous. Traffic mitigation measures wouldn't prevent that. So this isn't theoretical, it's a decision that the city has already evaluated once and decided against. This concern is shared across the neighborhood. We are united in this issue. We've collected 56 signatures from 33 households in our neighborhood opposing the street connection, and we've submitted them to you all as well as to the city planner. Neighbors who couldn't attend tonight plan to be at future meetings. So we neighbors have chosen to live in this community, and a community isn't about maximizing density or developer profits. The core responsibility of a community and a city and its leaders is to protect the safety of the people living in it. A community that works against its own families loses the very thing that makes it worth living in. We are not here to say no development ever. We are asking the city not to complete this street connection.
Conclusion?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Johnson, then Jason, and Jeremy.
Good evening. My name is Johnson Isaac Joseph, and I live in Education Hill, just where Nandita has spoken about. I moved here in 2020 because this was a quiet residential street, a place where families could safely walk, kids could ride bikes, and traffic was minimal. Since then, my life has changed for good. I have a 2-year-old now. What concerns me is simply not that housing is being built. I understand and support the need for housing. What concerns me is that the project depends on fundamentally changing the street I relied on when I bought my home. Opening the 157th Avenue to through traffic and adding 16 new homes changes this from a low-volume residential street into a connector. That means higher speeds, more vehicles, more risk in a place where families already live and children already play. I worry that the city is being asked to change long-standing street conditions, not because the neighborhood needs it, but because the current development layout requires it to maximize the unit count. My request is simple. Please make sure that safety, access, and neighborhood conditions are evaluated first, and that changes to 157th Avenue are not presumed as mitigation for a private development design. I chose this neighborhood because it felt safe for my family. I'm asking the city to protect that basic expectation for the families who already live here. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Jason, Jeremy, and Emma.
Thank you for your time. My name is Jason Rackley, and I'm an ISA member. I've lived in Redmond for 15 years. I live on Education Hill, and during that time, I've been a member of ISA pretty much that entire time. I'm a military veteran and a combat veteran, and the reason I joined ISA is because of the highly professional culture there, the safety, the training, the people. You've heard from a lot of them tonight. I think all of you would be very impressed if you came there and visited and just met with some of us at ISA. We welcome you. Come and see what we do, see how we onboard new members, see how selective we are, how careful we are, and how we focus on safety. As a member of the military, I served in the infantry in the Army. And I was very concerned about safety when it came time to join a range. So I looked around at many different places, and I joined ISA because of the safety. Because as coming from military ranges, safety is paramount. And the safety and professionalism at the ISA range is equivalent to what I experienced in military ranges. And I've been a member, like I said, for almost 15 years. So I work full time, I have a family, I live on Education Hill. It's difficult for me to go on weeknights, and in the wintertime it gets dark. I like to go to the range and shoot. And so I ask you to please reconsider changing our hours. Taking away Sundays would affect me personally, affect my family, and affect many members in the community. And so that's it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Jeremy, Emma, and David Morton.
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Jeremy Tadros. Usually when I come to speak with councils, it's usually about housing affordability and other better urbanism causes. Redmond is a leader in East Side in tackling a lot of these issues, and many of the changes in your zoning further these goals. However, I'm also a member of ISA, and I come to you today in hopes that you'll reconsider the noise amendment and the zoning changes. As you know, when it comes to ensuring our communities are a great place to live, promoting third places is key. These spaces in the community are ones that are not home or workplace where people can build connections, relax, and explore their interests with others. This helps foster interactions that are not mandated by work, school, or increasingly managed by social media algorithms focused on profit, not people. ISA is and its 500 plus members third place. While coffee shops, the gym, and other spaces are great third places, there's much that makes ISA unique. I know that there's a societal perception of what kind of people would spend time at gun ranges that often looks like someone from Duck Dynasty. However, there's a whole variety of people who participate in shooting sports, as you can see from today, and who come from lots of walks of life, from tech workers to blue-collar workers to teachers like me. We get to connect with people, but one of the most striking things for me is intergenerational connections. Most third places are populated by people who share similar work, similar ages, but I gotta say, there's such a range of people you get to make connections that you normally wouldn't in other places. The proposed noise ordinance, while well-meaning on paper, could erode our third place. By reducing the evening hours during the week, this would likely end our action shooting events, as those of us who get off work late wouldn't be able to attend. People who work weekends would also see their opportunity to show up, get reduced as well. Losing Sundays has the same effect for those who work longer hours during the week. And in fact, many have the opposite effect and may have the opposite effect of making Saturdays even louder, as more members would have to resort to only being able to show up that day. I'm sympathetic to the issue of too much noise. My apartment is wedged between a bar that has nightly live music and a high school sports stadium. I also have a 4-month-old, so believe me, I can appreciate noise concerns. However, the stadium and the bar existed before my family moved in. And we moved in with the understanding of those spaces existing. It'd be unfair of me to ask existing community amenities to change the operations, even if I benefit. To round up, my ask of council is to reconsider or at least delay this amendment. The club has been working to limit the impact of our activities on our neighbors. We changed the rules to be more ecologically responsible. We're planning on noise mitigation strategies as well. Please let us try these to see if they work before you implement any zoning changes for noise. Please don't erode our third place. Thank you.
Thank you. Emma, followed by Dr. Morton.
Good evening. My name is Emma Rockenbeck. Please excuse my coughing. Despite being sick, I'm here because this is important. I have an ask and a number of related questions. I'm asking you to remove flock cameras from Redmond. Not disable, completely remove. Flock cameras are not hardwired and are controlled by a third party. Anyone can access them. Flock is not secure, and even if it was secure, we should not have this kind of mass surveillance. No private company should have control over mass surveillance. And we know Flock data is being used to target immigrants, women, queer people, and other vulnerable populations. It is imperative we remove all Flock cameras from Redmond. And my questions are the Flock cameras still deactivated? Supposedly suspended and turned off Flock cameras in Eugene, Oregon were found to have been reactivated. Why aren't we covering them completely like Olympia recently did? And who gets the final say if they stay? The council, the sheriff, the mayor? And what else is being done to protect immigrants in Redmond? I know there was a meeting in Olympia today regarding Flock cameras. I also know you can't answer these questions now. But I would appreciate if the city of Redmond would make an official statement on what the decisions will be regarding Flock cameras going forward as soon as possible. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Morton? You are our final speaker tonight. In person.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm David Morton. I'd like to speak about the PFAS detections in Redmond's drinking water. Staff's transparency in sharing this information and their proactive monitoring since 2014 is appreciated. Here are some concerns about the path forward. First, the regulatory uncertainty. The EPA proposed significant changes in May 2025, potentially eliminating some maximum contaminant levels, or MCLs, and extending the compliance deadline from 2029 to 2031. It's unclear how this uncertainty affects Redmond's planning timeline. Might treatment systems prove unnecessary, or could the contamination worsen and require urgent action? Second, the sources of contamination remain unknown. The city's drinking water supply wells are highly vulnerable to surface contamination and require diligent protection. Historic mismanagement of PFAS-containing products has likely occurred. Identifying the sources could determine whether this mismanagement is ongoing. The monitoring wells near wells 1, 2, 3, and 4 show exceedances, while well 5's monitoring wells remain clean. This pattern suggests localized sources of contamination that deserve investigation, in addition to treatment of present PFAS levels. Third, the fiscal implications are concerning. Ratepayers deserve cost estimates soon. What's the magnitude of the cost? Millions? Tens of millions? How will this affect utility rates? Fourth, the well service area receives blended water from all wells plus purchased water from the Tolt watershed. What percentage comes from the contaminated wells 1 and 2? Could changes such as increased reliance on purchased water and on wells 3 and 5 provide a cost-effective interim or permanent solution? Finally, well 4 has been offline with iron, manganese, and PFAS concerns, and it may be relocated. Does it make sense to pursue multiple expensive remediation efforts to save well 4? I commend Public Works for their diligence, but these questions need answers before committing to expensive infrastructure. The February 3rd committee meeting should include cost scenarios, plans to investigate the sources of PFAS contamination, and operational alternatives, as well as plans for treatment facilities. Wells 1 and 2 have tested too high for PFOS since April 2024. Homes and businesses within Redmond's well service area might benefit from installing carbon filters on their drinking water faucets now. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our in-person speakers tonight, and written comment has been distributed to the council. There are 3 people signed up to speak remotely: Joe Kunzler, Paul Quinn, and Max Ruhlman. The clerk will call Joe Kunzler.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Kunzler. This is the Redmond City Council. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, President Stewart. Good evening, Redmond City Council. Joe Kunzler here. And yes, we are going to buzz the Vanessa Kritzer Tower because we have a standard. 2 times we've had that standard in council procedures unenforced by this president with buck fever and needs a noble attempt at coaching, not a scolding and not a demotion. Just coaching. I want to quote to you Kurt Signetti, the head coach who has turned around some losing college football programs into champions. As Signetti said, quote, playing to a standard, not the circumstances of the game, habits, first you form your habits, then your habits form you. In life, you have freedom of choice, but not freedom from consequence, end quote. Bringing this back to Redmond City Council, Alex Zimmerman has had to learn the hard way in many places that there are consequences to the sexist, unpatriotic abuse he hurled tonight. And 2 weeks ago at the Bellevue mayor from your podium with that deplorable sign. Alex Zimmerman back then ran into the Kritzer Forsyth standards that are the Redmond City Council procedures. Guess who helped enforce that standard last year? The current president and vice president. I know you can do this. President Kritzer, who I am not speaking for, I'm sure agrees. Now, continuing my personal opinion, considering the admiration I have for this council, I ask this president to choose enforcing the Kritzer standard, please, so we all know you're capable of doing and exclude Alex Zimmerman for 6 months. He just violated your council rules again. Your council procedures are extremely clear about this. They are the standard. And Bellevue is watching very carefully what's going on up here. I would also add that I am willing to come down there and help enforce that standard to protect the women and the gentlemen on council. None of you deserved Alex Zimmerman's hate. None of you. That was just out of line. There is also the option of excluding Zimmerman for violating the Redmond City Council Code of Conduct for maybe perhaps permanently. I encourage the council to explore this option. Never again means never again to me too. So bring on the PTSD and debtor custody Zimmerman wars. I'm in it to win it. I know that most of you, all of you are too. I'm sorry for some of you on council that I thought Zimmerman wasn't going to come tonight. But I'm back to protect my president, not Donald Trump, who is an angel sent by God, like Councilmember Forsyth as well. The rest of you, well, nobody's asking you to take on Mayor Bernie, Alex Zimmerman, Brian Haywood, Tim Hyman, anti-Semitism, and a rogue ally, and Joe Kunzler. In conclusion, I'm out of time, so I will just say that I hope this president rises to the moment, and I want to leave it at that. Good luck, President Stewart. Hang in there. Thanks.
The next speaker is Paul Quinn.
Hi, you reached Paul Quinn. Sorry I couldn't get your call. Leave a message at the tone, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
As my colleague was just mentioning, Paul Quinn did write to the council earlier today. Those comments have been distributed. He did expect to be able to speak with us again. Maybe Cheryl will go to the next speaker and then circle back to Mr. Quinn. Okay, let's give Max a call.
Hello?
Hi, Max. This is the Redmond City Council. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Hey, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, good evening, and welcome, Councilmember Parsi. At Western Washington University, I'm currently pursuing an interdisciplinary degree in music, politics, and sociology. One of the things I've learned is the very strong connection between cultural ideas and social change. My favorite example to point to is how the hippies in the 1960s were able to be catalysts for the anti-war movement that challenged the war in Vietnam. There is a pattern throughout history of artists being on the front line of social change, from the Dadaists in World War I to Woody Guthrie and other folk artists in World War II, to punk and hip-hop artists like Outkast and Green Day against the Iraq War. The earliest example I could find was the play Frogs by Aristophanes, who harnessed theater as political satire. Written in 400 BC to critique Athenian society in ancient Greece, we see it as works of art like this that continue to live on 2.5 millennia later. The hippies in the 60s were able to have their presence felt in society without ever running candidates for public office. Instead, they found a lot more success running rock bands. Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, The Doors, Jimi Hendrix, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Country Joe McDonald, Johnny Cash, Bob Dylan. All of these immensely influential groups and artists shaped society's fabric without ever passing a single piece of legislation or receiving a single political endorsement. I mention this because it is relevant to our moment. We are in turmoil as a people and as a nation, and it is said that art is the court of last resort. Even with the firehouse being shut down by the mayor, shows have continued, albeit with varying degrees of success and safety. As I talked about or warned in one of my first comments, people have started to rely on DIY shows in places like parks, under bridges, and in garages and basements. I do want to recognize, though, Wolf has done an excellent job organizing regular shows in a safe, supervised community space through a partnership with Soul Food Coffee House. But many East Side bands have turned to less supervised spaces. This is another consequence of the mayor's decision. All of these groups of artists are powerful, resilient, creative communities. And the individuals you meet at these shows are determined and filled with powerful ideas of social change. As we look to the future, I think it's these creative minds that will offer a path forward in the unpredictable and unstable times we find ourselves in. Music and art connects people and has a very real utility as a way to build community, connection, and solidarity. It's tangentially related to the firehouse, but all of this is to say that when times are tough, I think it's important to lean on art. That was a long meeting, but you guys take care and have a good night.
Thank you. And we will give Mr. Quinn one more call.
Hi, you reached Paul Quinn. Sorry I couldn't get your call. Leave a message at the tone.
Okay, Mr. Quinn's comments have been shared with the council, or he emailed them rather to the council, and items from the audience is now closed. Our next item of business is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
It has been moved.
Second.
And seconded. Are there any items to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Nueva Camina.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And the consent agenda is approved. I will read Resolution 1619 into the record, a resolution of the City of Redmond, Washington, completing the Redmond 2050 Comprehensive Plan Periodic Update. Thank you. Our next item of business is a staff report on PFOS regulations and Redmond's drinking water. Our Director of Public Works, Aaron Burt, and his team will introduce this item. And while the staff are setting up, I'm going to let the council know it is time for our biannual tradition of signing up for our turns to be the council ombud person. So throughout the meeting tonight, this spreadsheet or this sign-up sheet is going to move down the dais and then come all the way back to me. Each council member outside of council leadership will sign up for 2 months in a calendar year to serve as our primary point of contact. So let's certainly give our full attention to the presentation, but this can move through in the quieter moments through the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Point of information?
Yes.
In the past, we have chosen one and gotten it all the way to the end and then select your second on the way back down, just for clarity.
Thank you. That is what I intended to say if I did not successfully communicate that. And Director Burt, are you and your team ready?
Yes.
Awesome. We'll give it to you then.
Council members, good evening. Aaron Burt, Public Works Director. Tonight I'm joined by our Water Operations Maintenance Manager, Ernie Fix, and probably one of the best scientists in the Pacific Northwest, Jessica Atkelson. What we want to do is take you through current efforts as we're dealing with PFAS and an evolving regulatory environment to set the conditions for the actions that we're taking, and also to tee up information that we'll be bringing to you here in February, and then also part of the budget process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ernie.
All right. Thank you, Director Burt. Thank you, council members. Excuse me. So, like Director Burt said, we're here to discuss PFAS in Redmond's drinking water. And just to start out, starting out with what is PFAS? So PFAS stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. It's a mouthful, that's why we call it PFAS. So these are a group of human-made chemicals, broadly referred to as PFAS, and you may have heard them referred to also as forever chemicals. They were invented in the 1930s and have been used in a variety of household products and industrial applications. These are things like nonstick cookware, clothing, pesticides and herbicides, and even food packaging. So over time, PFAS chemicals have been released into the environment through their use, handling, and disposal, and this includes into groundwater, which is our focus for the water utility. This is a concern because PFAS have been shown to have adverse health impacts in humans when they build up in bodies over time, especially in sensitive populations such as pregnant or nursing women, infants, and individuals with weakened immune systems. So as a result of those concerns, federal and state regulations have been enacted to drive the removal of potentially harmful concentrations of PFAS from drinking water. But very briefly, the regulatory landscape around PFAS has been and continues to be rapidly evolving. On the federal side, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency established the first maximum contaminant levels for 6 PFAS compounds in 2024, which go into effect in 2029. Jessica will go into the timeline in a bit more detail on the next slide. These maximum contaminant levels, or MCLs, are enforceable limits that drinking water can't exceed. Compliance with the MCLs are based on a running annual average of 4 quarterly samples. The EPA rule requires that the first 4 samples be complete by 2027, but Redmond has already completed that step and continues to sample on a quarterly basis. On the state side, the state of Washington, through the Department of Health, had previous state action levels, or SALs, that they recently decreased to match the federal MCLs earlier this month. Exceedance of the SALs requires additional public notification to impacted customers and is also based off of a running annual average. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jessica, who's going to go over the regulatory timeline and Redmond's sampling history.
Great, thanks, Ernie. As a scientist, I want to dive into all the details here, but I promised Director Burt that I'd keep it high level, so I'm going to do my best. So as far as a drinking water utility, PFAS really entered the scene in about 2014 as an emerging contaminant that popped up on all of our radars. That was also the first year that Redmond sampled our drinking water supply wells for PFAS. At that time, they all came back non-detect. However, I do want to point out that at that time, because PFAS was such a new chemical, the laboratories really didn't have the technology to find it at really low levels. And that's likely it was there, but we just couldn't see it at that point in time in 2014. Ernie touched on kind of the regulatory landscape. It's really been evolving for the past 5 years, starting back in 2021 when DOH introduced, or excuse me, the Department of Health, the State Department of Health, introduced state action levels. And then that was followed in 2024 with EPA announcing the MCLs. And each time these new regulations came forward, the standards became lower and lower. And at that time also, the laboratories were trying to keep up with that and were able to detect at lower and lower levels. So really 2024 was kind of a pivotal year for us because we got the MCLs from EPA. In addition, we started our quarterly sampling that Ernie just referred to, and the laboratories were able to detect these PFAS chemicals at much lower concentrations. And so in 2024 and into 2025, we really got a better understanding of our situation here in Redmond. Things continue to evolve. Just last Thursday, the Washington Department of Health lowered their SALs to match EPA's MCLs. And there's also been EPA's announced that potentially they might extend that 2029 date out to 2031 where we need to meet the MCL. So it continues to evolve. We're doing our best to keep up with that. And now Ernie is going to talk about the results that we got from the last quarterly sampling.
All right, thanks, Jessica. So yeah, as Jessica mentioned, I'm going to go into what our initial sampling has shown. While there have been detections at all of the wells that we've sampled, wells 1 and 2, which are considered a single well source, show an exceedance of the MCL and then the matching SAL of perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, or PFOS. So that MCL is set at 4 parts per trillion. A common reference point, just to kind of put that into view, is 1 drop in 5 Olympic swimming pools. So very small quantities that we're talking about here, but still right at that MCL. So you can see a snapshot of the sampling results for PFOS here with the well 1 and 2 source outlined. It's up on the screen here. All of the results for all of our sampling are published on Redmond's PFAS webpage as well and available for download. So what this means, what this exceedance means, is that Redmond will need to pursue a mitigation, such as treatment, for wells 1 and 2 to decrease PFAS levels below the MCLs by 2029, and will need to send ongoing notifications of the situation to customers in the area served by wells 1 and 2 to meet the requirements of the state action levels. To go into what actions the city is taking now and the next steps for the city, I'm going to turn it back over to Director Burt.
Thank you. So one of the things that we've committed to, and we've had these discussions with council before, is we are engaging in radical transparency when it comes to the conditions that we're finding within our wells and what we're sampling for. We publish this information on the website. We're having these conversations with concerned citizens, asking about the impacts of what does this mean for them and their health. We try to direct them to the resources that we know and the information that we know. But we are in an evolving situation. As Dr. David Morton so kindly pointed out, we still do not know the contaminant source of these PFAS detections. There's not one magic site out there that we can pinpoint that's driving this. So what we are assuming is that contaminant levels will continue to fluctuate as we continue our sampling cycle as we go forward. But regardless, even if we see an increase or a decrease in the sampling, we have to be prepared to be able to respond for treatment. And as Jessica and Ernie mentioned, the changing regulatory environment and framework right now, I can't give you a pinpoint of when we have to have potential treatment online or at this point what that would cost. What we will be bringing in front of council in the first part of February is a contract with a consultant to bring some folks on board for us to begin that exploration process. What are the treatment options that are available out in the market? What are the conditions that we have on the ground, and what type of treatment facility would best meet our need to address for or be prepared for a whole range of potential contaminants that we may find. So we don't have answers for you, but we are beginning to begin that exploration process. My intent as part of the budget process is to put a placeholder in the CIP for the 27-28 budget process. We're anticipating anywhere from $25 to $30 million. I can't tell you the potential impact on the rates right now, or whether or not we have the dollars within current CIP funding, or if we would need to reallocate current CIP dollars to meet this potential need in 27, 28. But what we do know is that with the evolving nature of the contaminants out there, we are going to have to lean forward and really dig into if we commit to building a treatment facility, more than likely on wells 1 and 2, and we're going to have to really dig into that and begin that process in 27 and 28 for the permitting in order to get it built in 29, if in fact that is the time frame that we're going to have to stick to. So a lot of moving pieces right now, but once again, it is our commitment and our dedication to ensure that we have clean, safe, and healthy drinking water for the citizens of Redmond. There are a lot of other options that we could engage in that will be coming back to council to have those policy discussions as we know more, but this is where we're at right now. Happy to field any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Burt and team. We appreciate the thoughtful update. Council, at this time, for many, a couple at least, this is one of the first staff reports, so I'll just say this is a great time to ask a couple high-level questions. It does sound like we will see this topic with a contract back in committee on February 3rd. So if the staff aren't able to do a deep dive on your question, they might take it offline or bring it back to committee on February 3rd. Are there questions from the council? Councilmember Prakriya.
Yes, and thank you, Director Burt, and thank you everybody who worked on this presentation. It was very informative. My question is kind of two-part. First of all, just generally, are the regulations from the State Department of Health stronger or weaker than from the EPA? I know they only have a detection alert level as specified in the presentation, but do those generally match the strength of the EPA? Are they generally lagging the EPA in timeline and then adjusted to the EPA, as seems to be indicated in this presentation? So that's part one. And then part two is this, I mean, I'm very big on regional collaboration like Council President Stewart, and this seems to be an issue that every city is facing, right? With changing state regulations, changing national regulations. How is our approach similar or different to our neighbors?
Sure, excellent questions. Normally, the state regulations tend to be stronger than federal regulations, depending on the contaminant. In this situation, the state regulations were less than the federal regulations, and now the state is matching the more stringent federal MCL levels. Regionally, some of our sister cities have had this issue in Issaquah and Sammamish, and they have been engaging and moving down the pathway where they're actually installing treatment for PFAS right now. So the conditions in those cities have been worse. Our largest advocate when it comes to water is our engagement and support with the Cascade Water Alliance. We support those efforts, and we tend to, on a regional basis, especially here on the east side, coalesce around a standard position dealing with state or federal regulations when it comes to water. So we are learning from our sister cities already. Jessica and Ernie have been in contact with the other water systems. We're understanding what type of treatment facilities they've been placed, how they're dealing with this situation at hand, and what lessons learned we can take from those.
Thank you. Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. When you come back with your learnings on what other cities are doing, I'd be interested in the application of what those cities are doing and our complex relationship with our water table as it is so close. I think that's definitely something we need to be considering when we're deciding how we proceed forward. We know that our water table is only 6 feet below us, and what are the complications for whatever path forward we need to consider?
And that's a council member. That's also part of the discussion that we're going to be having with our consultant that we bring on board to make sure that we're assessing a kind of our unique environment here.
Other questions from the council? I will chime in with just one to say, or a comment really, because I just a request for the future. This presentation tonight was really responsive to the regulatory environment, and I very much understand that. As was acknowledged by yourself and the public, there is going to be concern. So do keep us posted as we know more about what could or should be recommended to the public and our water customers who are impacted by this information in the future. You may have some folks sitting on this very dais who are going to be receiving those things at home, but it would be helpful to be proactively, to be helpful, good communicators.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Any other questions from the council? Okay, well, we will see you all back February 3rd in committee to continue the conversation. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you.
The next item of business tonight is our Ombud report. Council Vice President, do you have follow-up from December?
I have nothing further to report from December.
Thank you. We'll go to Council Member Kritzer is our January Ombud. Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you so much. So I'll note this last week we got quite a few emails in support of the candidates that we were interviewing, and in particular our newest council member, Parsi. Great to be able to hear about perspectives from the public on this big decision that we made tonight. We got quite a few emails, as well as the petition that was referenced during public testimony tonight about the issue on 157th, and I followed up with those residents and also have asked that and confirmed with Director Helen that we're going to be getting some more information for the council to be able to better understand the situation that's going on with that particular development and decision there, so that we can follow up. We also received a couple of emails with questions and comments about our public comment rules and enforcement. I also received a question, concern from a community member about the treatment of e-motorcycles, the kind of highest level of e-bikes, which we've talked about a bit, and we'll be following up with that resident, both about kind of the state legislation that we've been looking at, as well as some of the discussions we've had at the city level around different types of e-bike and other motorized bike policies. We also received several messages similar to public comment received tonight around ISA. Also received a couple messages asking about the status around police technology and the flock cameras. And we also received a message of a resident who had written to us years ago, who then followed up on that message with concerns about the ties that come with accepting federal grants. And then we also received, just before this meeting, I think from the person who tried to call in to comment, but we weren't able to reach some comments around diversion goals and fairness in pricing. So we'll be following up on those issues as well. And I'll note that I have rebegun my drop-in office hours. I had been doing by appointment this last year, but I have rebegun drop-in office hours. They're now going to be at the Senior and Community Center the first and third Tuesday of the month from 3 to 4 p.m. And the first person to visit, we talked about parking in the Anderson Park neighborhood, some of the changes in those policies, and the process to get permits to park on the street, and especially what it means to be accessible for folks that need ADA access, and the specific spots for vehicles related to that. So I'll be following up on that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. I had some conversations, responded to an email about the 157th Street, and had some conversations around the ISA Interlake sporting. Just want to, for the record, note that both of those processes are very early in the process. So I believe both of them are in the listening phase right now. So just want to state that for community. Had community conversations around ICE presence and protecting our community and what happens to abandoned vehicles. Stay tuned for more information on that. We'll be bringing forward a proposal in the coming weeks. Conversation around the velodrome and One Redmond partnership that I'm excited to share about after I meet with One Redmond, probably late next week. More conversations with community around flock cameras, automatic license plate readers. A big shout out and thank you to the Redmond Police for their response to the incident at the Redmond High School, and then followed up with our striking Starbucks workers around some concerns they were sharing.
Thank you. Are there other Ombud reports? Council Vice President Nueva Camina.
Thank you. Well,
I've been busy for the last couple of weeks working alongside of you, just getting things set up for a council retreat coming up at the end of the month. Also, just getting kind of the lay of things as we kick off our next 2 years. Council Member Forsyth and I attended the Disability Board. Several of us attended the Lake Washington School town hall that was student-led at Newport High, where we listened to the students on the funding crisis. A lot of the issues that, or the decisions that we make at the city level directly impact the schools, and continuing to foster the relationship there and learning. We also, of course, had the legislative session preview and send-off for our local legislators going back to Olympia. Attended a memorial for former council member Nancy McCormick there at Downtown Park, as we dedicated the Bosque area, the cherry trees in her honor. Met with several of our community members that are concerned about continued ICE presence in the neighborhoods, continuing to not only be concerned about themselves, but their neighbors as well, and also several about the running cars being left behind and the issue that that's presenting. We've seen that here in Redmond as well as in Seattle. Also joined community members for how to get more involved in protecting their neighbors, and also how to support the families that are impacted by family members being detained. And then also on this past Saturday at the library, attended an exhibition kickoff that was celebrating Chinese American legacies that have helped form Redmond. And Councilmember Mangasoni joined me, as well as Council President Melissa Stewart. And that wraps up.
Thank you. Are there other Ombud reports? Okay, I will quickly chime in with a few. As was mentioned, it's been a busy couple of weeks of events, and I've really appreciated getting to do so many of those with the entirety of Team Redmond. So even the children of Team Redmond helping to hold the ribbons to help us cut them, and all of the things. So it's been an awesome start to the year. Really quickly, I personally do not have office hours this week because of our work in Olympia, and I'll speak about that in a second. I did send the council, and Councilmember Parsi, I will connect with you about this email that I sent the council this morning with a bunch of scheduling updates. I did neglect to tell you that we have arranged during our February 10th study session to have a conversation down here in council chambers with the chairs of all of our commissions and boards. That way we can just kick off the year understanding, first of all, the new faces in the room, but also what is everyone working on this year, and where can we be helpful to one another. So look forward to that on February 10th. The Washington State Legislative Session is underway. For those that don't know, our council-approved agenda is available at redmond.gov/council. And I want to thank our Chief Policy Advisor, Amy Tsai, for once again serving as our team captain for the session. Each week, the council receives written updates about the session and how our agenda is being reflected. In the first week of the session, Redmond, including so many of our awesome staff, have participated and engaged in legislation to improve plastics recycling, offered support to a bill that would require federal law enforcement officers who come to Redmond to be unmasked and wear identification, support for legislation that could improve the market for condominium construction, and legislative committees in the House in the housing space, heard expert testimony and presentations from our very own planning staff about how their partnership can help build more housing faster. I'd also like to note that Mayor Bernie and the council, Mayor Bernie's already there, she beat us there. The rest of us are heading down there tonight. We're gonna be in Olympia the next couple of days representing this agenda, and we will be meeting with our entire delegation, but especially those champions in the 45th District who are advocating for funding to replace the playground equipment at Hartman Park. With that, we will move on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports? Councilmember Forsyth.
Thank you. As Council Vice President Nueva Camina mentioned, we attended the Disability Board meeting, and that went smoothly. One of our quicker meetings of to date. Then I also attended the East Trail Planning RAC Committee planning meeting. and we set up the agenda for the rest of the year. We're going to be working on our work plan, adding to it what feedback we heard from community when we had our big workshop last year. So looking to implement the community feedback into how we proceed in the next year. It's an interesting mix because as Redmond, we have completed our section. So we are thinking broader in the more regional term of how we continue the excitement and energy for East Trail.
Thank you. Are there other committee reports? Councilmember Kritzer.
Thank you. So I attended the RIA 8 Salmon Recovery Council meeting where I'm still serving as chair. We spent some time discussing the state legislative priorities, and in particular, we discussed a new bill that would work to ban 6-PPD from tires, which has proven to be particularly harmful to coho salmon, but overall also harmful to our waterways. And so that's a bill that we're going to be watching this session and had some discussion about that. But we did decide to sign on in a sign-on letter that's supporting that effort. In addition to sending a letter to the legislature, supporting a lot of the different funding programs that help support salmon recovery. We also got to hear an update on recent salmon returns. I'm going to send the council a link to the slide deck for that. Generally, top lines is that on some salmon like Chinook, which is really what RIA 8 is the most focused on because that was it was founded at the time when we saw that species in particular being endangered, that's staying close to our averages and looking like our investment is working. One area that we're getting concerned about is around sockeye salmon. Although there were really high counts at the locks, and actually you may have seen the Seattle Times earlier this year when they were counting before they crossed the locks, it looked like, oh, it's going to be great returns. The drop-off was huge, and we ended up with a pretty low return on sockeye salmon. It's pretty concerning. So we had some discussion at the Salmon Recovery Council about having some future agenda items to talk about sockeye as well. So anyway, I'll send you also a little bit of information on that, but we also did see a lot of really interesting returns showing how the investments over time, despite the growth that's also been going on and some of the other pressures like climate change, that we are still maintaining our salmon populations and recovering some. Actually, overall, the kokanee in Lake Sammamish have been looking better in the last couple of years, so that's been a big focus for Redmond and our partners around the lake. So just a little bit about salmon. Actually, last thing I will say on that is that one of the other things we heard at that meeting was from some project sponsors that had done work in the floodplain, specifically trying to work in areas that might be most susceptible to flooding. And so they talked us through and actually showed us some videos on how did what they put in fare given the extreme flooding that we saw in recent times. And actually one of the interesting projects that I'll note we heard about, and I can send you also some information on this, was a project that as part of both, it was kind of a win-win for community. They moved houses that were in the floodplain that frequently might get flooded, and they expected in something like what just happened recently would have been completely underwater, and had moved those houses, relocated them back, also making it so that we had better salmon habitat. So kind of a win-win for both community and the salmon. And in this case, we literally were able to see side by side that those houses would have been totally underwater if that project hadn't happened. So we see how this investment also created community resilience. So anyway, I'll share with you all a little bit of written updates on that, but I did want to kind of share because it was a very interesting meeting. And then I'll also note that I attended the One Redmond board meeting. We elected 2 new people to the board from the Nelson Legacy Group. Some of you may know Tom Markle, who was there for a long time, has retired, and he had been on the board. So we elected some new folks, and one of them, Tim Overland, was elected as secretary. He also was elected as the government affairs chair. And there was some good discussion at the meeting about that committee and work hopefully with the city, to make sure that we also make that as effective of a committee as possible to serve our full business community and make sure that our connections with the business community are best served there. And then there was quite a bit of discussion about the legislative session and business perspectives on some of the bills going on there. So we'll definitely be seeing our business community weighing in there, and we'll be giving some more updates in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there other committee reports? Councilmember Soni.
So for the parks and environment sustainability, we were able to finalize the work plan for the rest of the year and set up the agenda, and looking forward for committee of the whole next Tuesday.
Perfect. Thank you. Great. I personally attended the Regional Water Quality Committee. It was our first meeting of the year, getting set. I will have a lot to say about this as we get ready to consider recommendations to the King County Council ahead of rate setting, and also some of the questions that we're going to wrestle with in the Regional Wastewater Services Plan. There is a lot of meaty work to be done there. I attended the planning workshop for the Sound Cities Association Public Issues Committee, because I'll be serving in the leadership team for that. I'm really excited that Councilmember Prakriya has agreed to also serve on the Public Issues Committee at the Sound Cities Association, so looking forward to working with him on that. And as was mentioned, council leadership's been busy with agenda setting and planning and all of that, so more to come. Okay, any final committee reports? Okay. Before I read this last piece, I'm going to give a little instruction. We need to go to executive session. We're going to do that via taking a quick photo over there. World's quickest photo, because everybody has been waiting. And the staff can move to the conference room for executive session, make sure the mayor's dialed in, and we'll join you just as quick as we can. The last item on the agenda is an executive session to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase, RCW 42.30.1101B. The session will be for 15 minutes, beginning at 10:06. Per state law, the executive sessions are closed to the public. Action will not be taken following, and we will adjourn at 10:06 plus 15 minutes, 10:21 p.m. Thanks, team. Executive session participants attending remotely, please leave this meeting and join the Teams meeting. Thank you.